Hi, thanks. Afternoon. Well, it's quite an apt time to come and talk about this. And today, I've been in the office all day, and I've not been there much the last 10 days. And there's a young person in there who I asked the team, what's this guy doing? He's on work placement, and they said, I remember he's that guy that dropped in that really good package. And about 6 months ago, somebody knocked on the office door, and I wasn't there, but left this, just said I'd like some work experience, and left this this really kind of half piece of art, half piece of design. But the interesting, that the way that the letter was written, saying how much he wanted to be a designer and how important design was to him, I thought, well, this person, clearly has got a passion about design. Anyway, when it came, the staff said, well, but he's under 18, and we only take on work experience from 18. There are all sorts of issues sometimes about taking O-level and pre-A-level students on. So we really genuinely not normally do it, but I said, look, this guy is obviously good, let's take him on. Well, today I was just going around speaking to all the team and looking at what they're up to, and I started talking to him, and he's working on a real life project for us. And I looked at his work and I said, blimey heck, that's really good. We could actually, we can genuinely use that. How long are you here for? I'm only here for another 3 days. I said, well, why don't maybe you can come back and finish the project and we'll pay you. What the girl sat next to him said, he's 14. And he said, no, I'm 15 next week. And he was confident as anything. And I asked him what his parents did, assuming that he was from some design hothouse. His dad was a ticket officer, sells tickets at TfL on the London Underground, and his mother works in the office for QVC. So hardly a design background. And we decided, just would you feel confident enough to present the work that you've been doing in this last week and a bit? And we put it on a big screen and he presented it, and it was unbelievable. And he was ready. He's ready at 14 to be a designer. There is no question about that. He's probably wasting the next few years being at school. Probably. And it made me, I'm not going to talk a lot about what I did the slides for, because it made me think that, it prompted me into what I should be talking about. And I'd forgotten about my wife. I shouldn't forget about her. I'd sit next to her and see her every bloody day and every evening. But she left school when she was 15. No qualifications whatsoever apart from a CSE grade C in art, which not many of you here are old enough. You're old enough to remember CSEs, and you are. Basically, if you were too thick to take O-levels or today's GCSEs, you were pushed down into a thing called CSE. So I married a thick lass from Burnley. But she left school at 50. She's got her MBE for design now. She's a much better designer than me. She's just been... We got a thing through this morning, which I can't believe. She can't believe it either. Well, I do believe it, but there's this voting thing out for the top 100 designers of all time, and she's in it, and I'm not. But never mind. But she is better than me, so she deserves it. So here's a girl that left school at 15, no qualifications. Back then the concept. So this would have been when would she have left school? In 1976. So back then there wouldn't have been the concept of leaving school at 15 and being a design apprentice. I'm sure I'm right, aren't I? I doubt if that was possible to do that. So she went to work for Riley's Snooker Tables in Accrington as a trainee wages clerk. She carried on making clothes for her friends and her sisters and herself, and we happened to meet on a disco floor, Angels in Burnley, when we were still in our teens at a Northern Soul night, and we shared a similar passion for music, going out, no interest in education, certainly no idea that any of us could be designers or wanted to be designers, or it wouldn't have been in our family's makeup to be designers. But luckily we got together, we ran off to London, I formed a band, spent all our rent money on, and we had to empty our wardrobes onto Camden Market, and Geraldine got a stall in Kensington Market. The opportunities were there, so as an 18-year-old, she became a designer just to fund just to fund my band. As simple as that, to pay the rehearsal, to pay she made clothes to sell in Kensington Market, to pay for rehearsal space for the band that I was in. And I'd never thought about then being a designer, but that brought us together. You know, I supported Geraldine. We ended up selling stuff on Camden in Kensington. You know, before we knew it, we were in our early 20s with a brand called Red or Dead. We won Designer of the Year for 3 years on a row. We ended up employing 400 staff with a 25 million turnover. And sold it for a shitload of money when we were still when we were still in our 30s. And you know that and now we are designers. There's no doubt about it. We design across all sorts, and we're good. But it shows that there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I think that's what we have to we've got 14 full-time designers at Hemingway Design who work on the pure design, you know, spend 10 hours, 12 hours a day designing. Only 2 of them are qualified. Only 2 of them have got a degree in design. 12 have done it of their own volition. And we're good. We're really good. I don't think there are many better design houses, hotter or better design houses than us in the UK at the moment. There's a lot bigger ones, but there's not many as creative. And if we're not living proof that we should be doing apprenticeships and not just throwing I'm not going to put down the design education system because it's fantastic. Quite clearly it's fantastic because it throws up amazing designers, and people from all around the world parents send their kids to design school in Britain because we're the best at it. But we've got to think wider than just St Martin's, St Martin's, St Martin's. You know, there's a lot more. There's a lot of other ways to become a designer. So I was going to talk about. I'm going to steal some of Matt's thunder. I've changed you'll see what we've done there. It's 71 now, isn't it? Have you updated your slide? So the creative economy is worth 71 billion to the British balance of payments, which is, you know, the second biggest driver of the economy, I think, now, isn't it? And you know, the only bit ahead of it is the service sector, which is retail and banking. These are some figures that recently came out from what's it called, like creativeindustries.co.uk website that was launched recently. You know, it's amazing. It's amazing, but to build that, we're going to have to do a lot more than just put it through the education system. Put everything through further education. If you look at the way that I look at it now, is that we are biting at the heels of the retail industry. You know, and if you look at what they're doing, if you look at what the experts in that, such as Philip Green, are doing, what they're trying to do is really, really push to get people as young as possible into retail. He wants the future managers and the future FDs of Topshop, of Debenhams, of all the things that he wants them at 18. He wants them younger, actually. He wants them at 16. And so if we're snapping at the heels of an industry that's doing okay, we've got to think a bit like them as well, and not. I do have a fear that we still think that design is superior, and it is about study and degrees and things like that. And I think we have to just widen it, like I've said. We've also got to think about the happiness side. I'm not going to go on about that. I'm not going to go on about that. But the thing that I will bang on about at the moment, and the thing that we have to push very hard politics-wise, is what creativity is doing to the world outside of money. Most people in here are pretty well travelled. You know, that's the Mitte district that's the Mitte district in Berlin. If you think about, you know, which is possibly number 2 to London now in terms of hotbed of creativity in the world, certainly in Europe. And if you look at how that has been created, it's not come through a system at all, you know. And the system that apprenticeships almost goes against is, you know, education is a system, and systems are not always the best way to deliver quality of life. The Mitte district has been developed by people who are outside of the system. If you want to read more about it, there's loads about it. Williamsburg, how many people have been to New York recently? The interesting thing for me was when we had Red or Dead, so back in the 80s and the 90s, we were in New York twice a year to do the shows, and you would never have dreamt of going across the bridge to Brooklyn for all sorts of reasons. Nothing to do, dangerous. Everything you needed was in Manhattan. And then we've been going to Williamsburg for a bit, and you know, you look at the folk there, and you think, oh, hipster this and hipster that, and you get drawn into that, you know, that kind of cynical way that you shouldn't do. But we went into this hipster boutique, me and Geraldine, a few months ago, and we asked, are there any good markets on? We'd been to all the markets we could have done in Williamsburg, and we said, are there any good markets on in Manhattan? And this girl just looked at us and said, well, how would I know? We don't go to Manhattan anymore. This is New York. And after being there about another 3 or 4 days, we realised that she was right. You know, people outside of the system have created a new New York, probably a better New York and a fairer New York, and it's happened again out of the system. And I would hazard to guess that it's probably happened with a lot of people who've completely dropped out of education. If you look at what's going on in Hackney Wick at the moment, is it an educated majority, or is part of it coming from people who've dropped out? I think we need to do the studies, but I think I know that this is not a normal situation that is going on. If you look at, I'm not going to talk about one of our projects. If you look at what's going on right now in Margate, the reason I did that is because we've got a great project which you should all try and get involved in, a community project, a not-for-profit project called Dreamland in Margate. But look on our website and get involved. Anybody creative, please come and help us. We need the help. But anyway, what have we seen? What have we seen that's happening in Margate at the moment? Possibly the most exciting seaside regeneration that's going on in Britain. Again, I'm pretty well travelled around the coast of Britain, and there's nothing approaching what's going on in Margate. And how's it happening? It's happening from bottom up. It's happening from people who are outside of the system, doing something and getting on with it. What can I say about this? At the same time as I'm saying that creativity has a massive impact on our well-being, on wealth, we've got somebody who seems determined, even though we've pushed him back, but it is coming in at some stage, who seems determined to devalue the work that 14-year-old in our office is doing, and to give it 50% of another 40, to give him 50% of value of another 14-year-old who's really good at maths. Well, we cannot sit back and let that happen. Careers advice. We can go on all we like about apprenticeships, but by the time that somebody gets to 18 and can do an apprenticeship, we've got a really great young apprentice young Katie in our business at the moment. She's 18, and I was talking to her this morning, about what I was going to do today, and I think she's involved in something tomorrow at, is it tomorrow, Thursday? Where's it at? Down at Purfleet. Yes. That's it, yeah. And we're talking about her first, I think she's probably been with us about 6 or 7 months as an apprentice. And we got talking about careers officers, and just it's pathetic. I've got 4 kids who've all been through. Well, 3 of them have all been through and out of education, and they just are so dismissive about the careers advice that they get. You know, to the point of when you turn up at an interview, make sure you're in a knee-length black skirt with a matching black jacket. Well, I'd send them away if somebody turned up like that, unless it was maybe Yo Yamamoto might get them through the door. But you know the look that they're pushing. And they're totally not up. One of the things that the Design Council maybe should be doing is explaining to careers officers what the future of what a young person can gain out of being a designer, rather than going for an apprenticeship with Marks and Spencers or something. There's a big gap in quality between what the industry offers and what these people what careers advisors think it offers. And then you got to look at, then I think we don't make enough of, you know, just in the creative industries alone, you start to look at the really big players. And, you know, I love that picture of Branson. But, you know, he didn't do further education. Vivienne Westwood didn't do further education. She went back after she'd created Seditionary Sex and then her own label with Malcolm McLaren. You know, she went back to study after that. And Paul Smith famously fell off his bike, couldn't be a professional cyclist anymore, and decided he wanted to make cycling clothes, and then became a fashion designer. You know, I could go on and on and on and on in the creative industries. You know, the examples are there for every person, for every John Galliano, maybe a better example to use, who's been through St Martin's. There is a Paul Smith who has done it off his own back. And again, maybe we need to start doing the figures of, you know, I've not been able to find any figures. You can't type in how many famous designers have not studied design, but maybe we should know it. You know, maybe it's a very important thing that we need to learn. I've talked about us. I'm not going to do that anymore. That's it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. It's me finished. Is that me done then?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you take some questions?
If anybody wants to, yeah.
Anyone got a couple of questions for Wade?
So what are the qualities people need to succeed if it's not coming from education?
Well, I think you've got to love it. You know, that sounds like being a football manager, but it's true. You very rarely see a designer who's treating it as a job. It's something that they would be doing absolutely anyway, because it's not like a job. It's fun, isn't it? You know, it's not. I can't think of anything. You know, when you go and let's say, for example, you go and work on the till of Tesco checkout, which is people have to do that job. I'm not having a go at it, but you can imagine why you're waiting for the bell. You started at 9, and when it's time to clock off at 5, you can really imagine why you can't wait to get on the bus or get in the car and go home. But when you're trying to solve a problem, or you're doing something you can think about how much fun or usefulness or how much it's going to improve somebody's life, you're not in a rush to go home. Because it's human nature to want to help other people, for most people, to want to help and to do good. And you're doing good in some way, whatever kind of design you're doing good. You don't really equate that. I mean, you're obviously doing good when you're checking out you're helping somebody get their shopping home quickly, but it's not the same. We're very privileged. If you're a designer, you're very, very privileged in your life. You may not earn the money of a banker or something like that, but you're far more privileged.
We have one more question. Oh, Tom.
Wayne, good to see you again, and thanks for reminding me that I'm old enough to have done O-levels. Not that I've got very many of them, but question that I wanted to ask you, and to some extent it's addressed to Matt, who spoke very eloquently as well before you, is you've both made presentations about the why, the importance of the creative industries, and the why we need to develop a pipeline of talent that doesn't necessarily have to come through the traditional design education route, however important that still may be. I guess the question I want to put to you is, if you're a trustee of the Design Council, Matt works for the Design Council, what's the answer specifically around apprenticeships? What's the, if you like, the how? Because there are people in this room, I suspect today, who, you know, they get all of that, they understand the importance, but they want to know, how does the design sector in Britain create a pipeline of talent that's non-graduate, apprenticeship, based?
I think the first thing is that it has to start in the schools, and there has to be an understanding from teachers who work across design, technology, art, music, that there is another way. That parents have to understand that as well, that there is more than that there is more than one way. So it has to be parents, because obviously the parents have a big influence over what a lot of kids, most kids will want to please their parents in terms of what they do. Even at 16, 17, 18, you're still at home and you're still respecting, most people respect their parents all through life, but at that age you're still listening to your parents intently. So the parents need to understand it. The teachers need to understand it more, and like I've explained, the careers teachers need to explain it. And then there has to be, but then after that, there has to be the pipeline that also the employers understand it. And and want to, because if you've never tried it, if you've never tried an apprentice, it's quite easy to doubt their ability to contribute towards your business. And also, you could have a bad experience. We haven't, but some people have had bad experiences. So we need a filtering system, don't we? We had a really good filtering system we have one. Well, I think our apprentices come through Kensington and Chelsea College, and they're really amazing at filtering them. So we only get to see the 3 that they know fit our culture, and so when you've got that, you're not kind of fishing about in the dark. So that's important, that filtration.
Brilliant, thanks very much. One more.
So what have your apprentices gone on to do once they've left you? Have they...
They've all stayed with us so far. So one's had a baby, but she works freelance. One went back to live up north. So yeah, but the rest are all working with us.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, thanks, Wayne. That was great.
Okay, thanks a lot.